Okay, we'll be starting in 1 or 2 minutes.
All right, set me light in here.
Excellent. Well, good evening, everyone. We've got a good number of attendees, so I think we'll make a start. Thank you all very much for joining. I hope you can all hear me okay. So just a few housekeeping rules before we start. We have muted you all upon entry, so we'll ask if you could please keep yourselves on mute, but you're welcome to put any comments or questions in the chat bar on the right-hand side of your screen. We will have a questions and answers section of the webinar a bit later. So before I hand over to our CEO, Philip, to start, I just wanted to also direct you all to the link we've got in the chat bar, which is our Just Giving page, if you would like to donate for the cause tonight for the Falkland Islands Museum. Right, well, on that basis, Philip, I'll turn over to you.
Okay, thank you, Lucia, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining what is FOTBOT's Friends of the British Overseas Territories first event of 2021. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce the director of the Falkland Islands Museum, Andrea Barlow. So Andrea has been with the Falkland Islands Museum National Trust for quite a relatively short time, and taking over the museum as director in December 2016. Andrea is a 7th generation Islander on her mother's side. And I believe, Andrea, you met your husband from HMS Dumbarton Castle in 2004. So it's fantastic to welcome you, Andrea. Yeah, I'd like to pass over to you to obviously introduce the project, and we've got a video, and then we'll go into question and answers. But thank you again for everyone joining, and we hope you enjoy the event tonight. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Hello, and thank you so much, everybody, for being here this evening. I'm a little bit overwhelmed, if I'm quite honest. When Lucia said that this was the most people that had signed up for an event like this, I was like, oh my goodness, no pressure then. So thank you very much. Now, I also want to thank, obviously, the Friends of the British Overseas Territories, FOTBOT, for doing this for us. I was first contacted by Lucia last year, saying that that they wanted to raise some money for a project that we were working on, and it seemed like the Lookout Gallery and Exhibition Hall was the perfect project. Now, what I have done is I have prepared a very short video, sort of like telling you a little bit about who we are and what we do. I have shot it on my phone. There's a lot of photographs in there. So, it's not going to win any Oscars, that's for sure. But I do hope that you'll enjoy it.
Great, thanks, Andrea. I'm going to share the video now, so do please let me know if there's any technical problems.
Okay.
Welcome to the Historic Dockyard Museum, the jewel in the crown of the Falkland Islands Museum and National Trust, and home to the FIMNT's 6 full-time members of staff. In a moment, I will tell you a little bit about the work that we do, but first, let me tell you more about our award-winning museum. The Historic Dockyard Museum opened its doors in September 2014. Since then, we have been shortlisted for a Museums and Heritage Award in 2015, won the Falkland Islands Tourist Board's Visitor Experience of the Year Award both in 2016 and 2018, received Certificates of Excellence from TripAdvisor every year since 2016. We've been voted in the top 25 museums in South America by TripAdvisor in 2019. And then in 2020, we were voted in the top 10% of attractions worldwide, again by TripAdvisor. The Historic Dockyard Museum celebrates the cultural heritage of the Falkland Islands and has galleries covering social, maritime and natural history, the 1982 war and Antarctic heritage. Our outbuildings include the blacksmiths and gear shed, the RT and telephone exchange, and the printing office and washhouse. We have an absolutely wonderful team here at the Falkland Islands Museum and National Trust, and our success is really down to them. Now, we have 6 full-time members of staff, and you may find that at some point you would have spoken or corresponded with one of them. So I would like to introduce you to them in a moment. Now, in the meantime, let me tell you about our casual staff. Now, we have a pool of around 10 casual staff members who cover weekends and also help us out on busy cruise ship days. Now, some of our casual staff have been with us for such a long time, and we really appreciate wholeheartedly the knowledge and experience that they bring. Now, they have taught us so much over the years. And we do only have one male amongst us, and that is Mr. Brian Summers, who is our caretaker. So let me introduce you to our full-time staff. And let me start with Tina Ormond, and Tina is our manager, and not only does she look after the staff, but she also looks after the collection. Now, when the Lookout Gallery and Exhibition Hall is built, Tina will be one of the members of staff who moves up to the new building, and this is really so that she can be close to the collection. And she has the absolute mammoth task of going right through the reserve collection, cataloguing, photographing and packing everything. Now, we are custodians of the collection, and we're very well aware that the reserve collection is not being looked after in the way that it should be. Now, the Historic Dockyard Museum is award-winning, and we're very keen to one day be recognised as an accredited museum. But I believe that the only thing that is stopping us from getting there are our storage issues. Tasmin Tyrrell is our exhibitions and promotions officer, and we're very lucky to have Tasmin because she was actually destined to be an English teacher. Now, Tasmin would work with us whenever she was back on breaks from college and university, and she ended up staying with us. Now, Tasmin is responsible for coming up with ideas for new exhibitions and events, and then obviously executing those ideas. Now, Tasmin also looks after the website. Sandra Alazia is our outreach assistant, and her primary responsibility is the Pathfinders Youth Group. There are currently over 40 members, and Sandra takes them on campouts, historic walks, day trips, and her aim really is to teach them local history, but in a fun way. And pictured is Sandra with some of the members of Pathfinders during a trip to Hope Place last year. Tara Hewitt came to us just over a year ago, I guess. Tara is all about the financial stuff. She also looks after the shop, and it is her job to come up with new ideas for merchandise and to ensure that we have lovely gifts for our customers to buy. If you come into the museum, no doubt Tara will be the first person that you meet when you do come in, and she will really look after you. Emma Goss is our most recent member of staff. Now, Emma recently graduated from Bournemouth University, and she has taken on the huge task of completing the historic environment record that we started just recently. Now, Emma is actually an archaeologist, and we have no doubt that her knowledge and experience in this field will come in very handy indeed. So this little building here is Britannia House, and I'm sure that many of you will recognise it. It was the home of the museum prior to us moving down here to the dockyard site. Now, believe it or not, 6 years on and we are still occupying Britannia House because this is where the majority of the reserve collection is held. But we do have items in containers, in a garage, in a stables, and we also have obviously the larger items that are being looked after by Firegas, who are looking after the helicopter and the Phantom and the fire engine. And then we have a Sea Harrier and a Lynx helicopter that have been pledged to us by the MOD. And of course these are two aircraft that we can't really accept until we have somewhere safe to put them. The solution? The Lookout Gallery and Exhibition Hall. And this is a project that we started several years ago, and obviously fundraising has taken us so far. We've got about £1 million now, but it's not quite enough. Unfortunately, COVID and certain fire regulations have meant that costs have gone up in recent months. So whilst we think that we're taking one step forward, we are then taking 2 steps back, and that is why we could really do with your support. And if you can't donate, then that's fine. That's just share our plight with whoever. If you know anybody that you think might be able to help, then please tell them about the project, because we would love to hear from anybody that can contribute in any way. Welcome to 1 Airport Road, and this is where the Lookout Gallery and Exhibition Hall will actually be located. So where I'm pointing to now, in about 1.5 years, you will actually find a building, a very large building, which will house the reserve collection that belongs to the Falkland Islands, and that includes some of the very large items that we have in storage. Now, our target date is the 40th anniversary of the end of the 1982 war, and that will be on the 14th of June 2022. So time is ticking on and we need to get started. And as you can see, work has started on the road. You can see the machinery down there. So it won't be too long before work actually commences on the building itself. So welcome to Cartmel Cottage, or 7 Pioneer Row, and it's located right in the centre of Stanley. And it's actually one of the oldest houses in Stanley. It was purchased for the Chelsea pensioners who arrived in 1849. Now, there were 30 of these kit houses, and they cost £50 each. Now, initially they consisted just of the room that you can see right now and the little bedroom here on the side. And as you can see, they used anything and everything to try and insulate the walls. They've used crates, they've used bits of wallpaper. I think there's something like 14 layers of wallpaper that were found when the buildings were being renovated. Now, the actual cottage as we have it now consists of 3 kitchens. And here you see the 1840s kitchen. So this is more or less how it would have been at the time that the Chelsea pensioners arrived. And then we kind of leap forward a little bit, and this is the 1950s, if you like, 1940s, 1950s kitchen. So it's a little bit more modern. Electricity's been introduced, of course. And this is the final kitchen. And this is the psychedelic one, if you like, 70s. And a little bit more, much more modern, really. And I'm not going to show you upstairs, the bedrooms upstairs, because hopefully you will actually visit us and you can see these for yourself. Now, I have no doubt that if you have visited the Falklands, you will recognise this structure here, and of course it's the Cape Pembroke Lighthouse. Now, this isn't a National Trust property, but I am showing you this because we hope to one day take over caring for the lighthouse from the Falkland Islands government. But we're not in a position to do so right now. The lighthouse requires a lot of work. Obviously painting, as you can see, the lighthouse is very rusty, but there's more serious problems going on that need addressing, and certainly problems that we're just not financially able to do anything about. So the idea is to take over looking after the lighthouse once all these problems have been rectified. Again, I'm sure that many of you recognise Whalebone Arch, and it was constructed in 1833 to mark 100 years of British administration in the Falkland Islands, and it is made up of the jawbones from 2 blue whales. And we've carried out work on the bones in the last few years, but there are more serious issues that we do need to address, because the bones are 2 feet into the ground and are absorbing moisture, and this is what is causing the bones to deteriorate. Some of you may recognise this little shanty. It is actually located on West Falklands, and it is known as Hawk's Nest Shanty. And it's about half an hour or so outside of Fox Bay. Now, this is a National Trust property, and it was actually donated to the National Trust by Mr. Tony Blake a couple of years ago. Now, we were quite fortunate in that Mr. Tony Blake also donated the land that the shanty sits on, and this means, of course, that we could keep it on site and look after it where it is. We were also quite fortunate that Mr. Tom Blake, Mr. Tony Blake's son, funded a track all the way to the shanty, and this track crosses a stream, so that means it's a lot easier to get to than it was. Now, we do hope to return to the shanty and finish the work that we started in March 2020, because obviously we're very keen to open the shanty up to the public, and we hope to put some benches outside and perhaps let people use it as a campsite as well. Now, the shanty is dedicated to the memory of the late Mrs. Lynn Blake. Again, the SS Great Britain mizzenmast is something that I'm sure a lot of you will be very familiar with, and it sits on Victory Green, right in the centre of Stanley. And it is something that for the last couple of years we've been treating with a combination of linseed oil and Stockholm tar. But the mast is deteriorating, so we really need to decide very soon whether or not it might be prudent to perhaps build some kind of shelter around the mast or move it inside. So this is Cooper Point, and a lot of you may not be very familiar with this particular area, but it's just to the north of the historic Dockyard Museum. As you can see there, you can see the main building and the anchors. Now, this land is reclaimed land, so we can't build on it. It is rather unstable. So we want to just make it a nice area for families to visit. We want to do a stepping stone timeline, some nice seating, and of course bring the Charles Cooper bow down to the site. Something else that I wanted to show you was this sign here, and it's one of 5 that we put up just recently as a result of sponsorship from the Falklands Heritage Trust. Now, I think it's important that signs like these go up at corrals and other places of historic importance, just so that people are aware that they are being cared for. Now, sadly, what's been happening is that people have been taking the stones from these structures and building barbecues and fire pits. And it's incredibly frustrating because these structures like these look after themselves as long as they're not interfered with.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, that was fantastic. And I hope for our listeners, guests and members tonight, that will hopefully has given you a better idea of what if you're donating towards, if you are indeed kindly able to make a donation, no matter how small. You know, every pound and every penny will be going towards a very good cause. Yeah, I look forward, Andrea, to hopefully seeing that field have a bit of a construction site on it at some point. So, Andrea, so we're going to move on now to question and answers. So, for those of you familiar with Zoom, you can pop in a question in the chat box. So please do, or if you want to just, I think you can either. In the latest Zoom version, you can raise your hand. So if you want to do that, or just message to say you would want to pose your question verbally in the chat, we will come to you as well. So we've got around 20 minutes. But without further ado, and I would like to go over to Oliver Wilderspin, who's got the first question. Oliver.
Hi, I was wondering, does the museum talk a lot about the natural history of the islands? That's something I know a lot of people are interested. You see the beautiful pictures of the penguins, and you did show the whalebone thing. How much is that a part of what the museum does?
Hi, Oliver. Yeah, I mean, anybody that has visited the Historic Dockyard Museum will know that we have a fantastic diorama upstairs, which has, you know, our species of penguins. I mean, they are taxidermy. Of course, they all died naturally. No animals were harmed. But we also have some bones, and there's also a geology corner. So it's quite a big section of the museum that is dedicated to the natural history.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Benedict, I see you've got your hand up, and you might want to say where you've been in the past, in the recent past. Benedict, over to you.
Indeed, thanks for that. Yeah, I just to say, really, thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. It actually took me back to 2019 when I had the immense pleasure of visiting the Dockyard Museum in Stanley as part of a cruise with Cork Expeditions when I took in the Falkland, South Georgia, and Antarctica. And really, I just want to really say it was a fantastic museum. Absolutely fascinating stuff in there. There's a brilliant, as you just said, the natural history upstairs, and I look forward to be able to return to Stanley to see the new hall when it's built. So I wish you all the very, very best with it, and all the best of luck.
Thank you so much. That actually really means a lot. One of the things that always, well, it doesn't surprise us as such, but I think it surprises people when they visit Stanley, and they expect, I suppose they expect a small museum, and I think they come in and they're like quite in awe, because it really is a fantastic museum. I'm not just saying that because I'm biased, but it really is a fantastic museum. But do make sure that if you do come back down, that you come in and say hi, and we'll put the kettle on.
I most certainly will, thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got a few questions that have coming through. I say a few coming through yeah, thick and fast. So a question from Philippe. Is there an estimate of how much would it cost to secure and restore the Cape Pembroke Lighthouse?
We think it'll be about $1 million. We think there are some very serious issues. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the lighthouse. So we rent the key out to people, and the idea was that we would paint it when we had the money to paint it. And we were planning on doing this. A very generous gentleman said that he would purchase the paint. So we thought, okay, well, we'll get on with it. It's not actually a National Trust property, but we wanted to do something about it anyway. However, when we were talking to somebody about carrying out the work, they found that there were some very serious cracks in the lighthouse. And we brought somebody down from Trinity House to do a survey of the lighthouse. And of course, the Falkland Islands government also did a survey of the lighthouse. And we think it's not going to be, yeah, I mean, 700,000-800,000 maybe, but I can't imagine it would be over $1 million. But, you know, obviously we want to see it restored because it's such an iconic structure. Anybody that's visited the Falklands or will Google the Falklands, you know, I bet you that a picture of the lighthouse will come up.
Yes, it does. I often, personally, I Google the Falklands frequently, and the lighthouse is over there. Just before we go to the next question, I just do want to just give the audience just you know, a shout out to certain people that I know listening. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank everyone who's here tonight from the Falkland Islands Association. We're really happy to have you with us, and we do hope perhaps to this will be cement the grounding for further collaboration. But I also want to particularly welcome Simon Bone, who's listening in from Guernsey, Oliver Wilderspin, who you've just heard from, who's in Jersey, and we've also got Alexandra Zydek, who's in Geneva. So as well as everyone in the UK and the Falklands.
Wow.
I just wanted to, you know, one of the benefits of this whole difficult year for many people has been obviously the facts we're getting all over the world. So without further ado then, I'll move on. So question from Bill Block: does the museum have an art gallery to display local arts and crafts?
Well, we do actually have, the Historic Dockyard Museum does have a gallery, and we use that area as to rotate exhibitions, if you like. And we have had local art displayed there. Certainly when we first opened the museum, that is what was in the art gallery. And of course, the new building, the Lookout Gallery and Exhibition Hall, will also have a gallery for art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's thank you for that. I do another question we've had from Robert Midgley. Robert, do you want to unmute yourself and just pose the question verbally, if that's okay?
Hi, yes. I'd like to know how the pandemic has affected funding to the museum. How has it affected you in general?
I have been very, very busy, sort of writing to various trusts and organizations and anybody really asking for money. But of course, you know, I think COVID has kind of really sort of, I mean, who's to say whether our fundraising efforts would have been more successful had COVID not sort of, you know, come along. So it's really difficult to say. I mean, I know that during the video I said that we had around 1 million. We've got about 1.2, but some of that is using our own funds, National Trust funds. But I think we probably have about 500,000 more perhaps to raise. And again, it's difficult because obviously COVID has affected the costs of many things. Including shipping, you know, shipping with the shortage of containers worldwide, shipping's gone up by 68%, just to give you an example. So it's kind of like devastating, but we still want something to open for next year. I mean, to me, this building is going to be the focus of the 40th anniversary commemorations. It's going to be a huge thing. And we just want a building that we can open and, you know, be proud of. And of course, even though we were aiming for next year, the whole building is not just about 82. There's a lot more. There's a lot of nautical, a nautical exhibition. There's going to be an exhibition on agriculture. There's going to be Land Rovers. There's going to be all sorts. So it's not all about 1982. But we thought that next year was the perfect target date.
Thank you, Andrea. Just a couple more people that have on the line tonight. I do particularly want to welcome Catherine Leonard, who is the Chief Executive of International National Trusts Organisation. So you're very welcome, Catherine, please, and Trevor, I believe, from the organisation. So if you have any questions, just raise it. I said there should be an option to raise your hand or just message in the chat if you want to say some words verbally, because we do encourage interaction at this point. I think so. Richie Combs, do you have a question, and feel free to pose it? Do you want to pose it verbally?
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Richie. Over to you.
All right. Actually, I'm here from the middle of Flintshire, which anybody in the Falklands, it's the old stomping ground of Barry Ellsby. But a lot's happened in the Falklands since I visited about 20 years ago. But what it is actually it's when I was last in the Falklands, there was a group of maritime museum people coming from, I think it was Canada. But I mean, in my hometown of Liverpool, just up the road, there's the Mersey Maritime Museum and similar places such as that. Are there links with other museums, like twinning arrangements that could be done with, say, in the UK? And also, as a separate question, how multimedia are you?
Oh, multimedia, I'm not very techie at all.
I'm a filmmaker,
I leave that to the young people. But we do have links, certainly to museums. And the one that sort of like comes to mind straight away is the SS Great Britain, because we were actually hoping to send a member of our staff. We had it all arranged. Tasman was actually going to go and spend a month with the SS Great Britain during the anniversary, because obviously it was a big anniversary last year, 50 years since she returned to Bristol from the Falklands. So yeah, so we have these plans, and obviously it all fell apart. But hopefully, you know, it's a really good thing, I think, for our staff to go away and gain experience, because none of us have any experience of running a museum, which I know just sounds absolutely crazy, but we don't. We kind of like just do the best that we can. And the thing is, I think it was actually probably one of the people that is watching at the moment that said to me, he said, I can see how passionate you all are about the museum and about your home and about what you do. And that beats any kind of official you know, qualification that you could have. And he was absolutely right. We all absolutely love what we do. And yeah, and I kind of went off on one, I'm sorry, but yes, no, we do have links with museums overseas.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Richard. I see we've also actually been joined tonight by a Member of Parliament in the UK, Gagan Mahendra. Gagan, do you have a question you want to pose?
It's just really interesting. So I'm the Member of Parliament for South West Hertfordshire, and I'm fortunate that I've got a satellite of the Natural History Museum in my part of the world, in Tring. So, Andrea, if you wanted to drop me an email, maybe I could make some introductions. Excellent work, and apologies for missing the start of your presentation.
No, thank you so much. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining, Gagan. You may or may not be aware that our parliamentary advisor is Andrew Rosendale MP.
Andrew is a very good friend of mine. I've known him for years.
I thought so, yes. So, you know, obviously, if you mention football, yeah, it'd be great. Perhaps we can have a discussion, because we obviously welcome obviously MPs from across all parties. So, really happy to thank you for joining tonight. And in fact, just to briefly mention, Deanna Davison used to be on the football committee several years ago. So she's one of our alumni, shall we say. Okay, let's move on. I think a question from Leslie. Typically, how many visitors to the museum do you get each year in a normal COVID-free year?
Probably around 30,000, I would say. I think last year we had around 70,000 people come by sea. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many came or flew in, should I say, or land-based. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for around 30,000, and it's going up every single year. So. Yeah, it does. Hopefully, it will shoot back up in a few months, all being well. Okay, I think we've got a question from Gus Eldridge.
Yes, I was just going to ask how the museum and the staff have been coping during the pandemic. It's been quite a roller coaster year, so just curious to know.
No, it really has. So we went into lockdown last March for about 5 weeks, and that's really the only time that we've been in lockdown. Apart from that, we've been going on as normal. I think we've had 45 positive cases, but they've all I think the majority of them have been caught during quarantine as they're coming into the islands. So we've been very fortunate that life here has just gone on as normal. Obviously, we've had no visitors because nobody's allowed to come through from South America. All those flights have been stopped, and there's no cruise ships. So we haven't had any visitors, but it's giving us a chance to catch up with other things. So yeah, I mean, obviously we'd love to see people, but we've been able to get on with other things.
Brilliant. Has the vaccine rollout been going quite well? Because I heard that some vaccines should arrive quite recently in the Falkland Islands.
They did. They arrived. I think we had 3,000 vaccines arrive last week. And at the moment, everybody over the age of 50 or who's on the high risk list are being vaccinated. And I think, yeah, it was yesterday, today and tomorrow. I think that's when everybody was being vaccinated. And I really want a vaccine. I can't get one at the moment. I'm quite envious because my husband works in the hospital and my daughter-in-law works in the hospital. So they've had a vaccine and I'm quite jealous, actually. Yeah.
I'm sure your time will come soon.
It will come. It will.
as will mine.
We'll
Hopefully.
come back to you, Gus. Gus is on the Football Committee, but we'll come back to you at the end, Gus, about the shop.
No problem.
We've got a hand up from Kit Lehman. Kit, over to you. I think you're just on mute at the moment.
How do I put my hand up?
Okay, so Kit, we can't hear you at the moment, Kit.
Join audio.
We can hear you now, yeah.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Right. Fascinating presentation. Thank you very much. I learned a lot. I was very interested that you're going to get a Sea Harrier. Now, in the Falklands War, the Sea Harrier really won the war. I was captain of Invincible after the war, and I'm a great fan of the Sea Harrier. It's the most fantastic, wonderful, versatile aircraft that was actually never beaten in the air. So yes, please get a Sea Harrier if you can, and one's been offered, that's marvelous. Is there any difficulty about housing it or preserving it?
No, so it's been pledged to us, like, you know, the Sea Harrier, which I absolutely agree with you. If you mention the Sea Harrier to any islander that was here in '82, then of course, you know, it's yeah, I can't describe it. You know, it's the aircraft to have, absolutely. Islanders just think of it, you know, very fondly. So yes, it's been pledged to us. And we just need somewhere to put it, and this is what this building is all about, because without this building we can't accept it. So yes, and you know, and that's what it boils down to. The Sea Harrier and the Lynx, you know, and the helicopter that we already have, the Sea King, you know, they need a home, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to go to, I think, Stephen Palmer, you have a question, I believe.
No, it was just to simply say thank you to Andrea and the staff at the museum. I, with other people, David Tatham and various other people, have been involved in the dictionary of Falklands biography. And every time I have asked for help from Tina or Andrea, for about photographs and information going backwards and forwards. All I can tell you is the service has been impeccable. And this is just a little opportunity to say to you, Andrea, and your staff, how great you are in actually providing information, which doesn't sort of normally appear in the normal life of the museum, but it's information that's coming out. The combination of you plus the archives provides historians with a vast store, and as a result of Tina's help, we've been able to improve the online version of the dictionary no end. So this is a little way of saying thank you very much, and here's a small bouquet.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot, Stephen. It really does. And of course, I will pass it on to Tina as well, and to the rest of the ladies. But you know, we're always here to help. So
she doesn't seem to mind me pestering her, which I must admit is a real skill.
She's an angel, she is, Tina. She really is.
Thank you, Stephen. It's good to hear from you. Thank you for joining tonight. I do want to ask Mike Norman, you've posted a comment. I don't suppose if you want to read it out, you're welcome to do so. If not, or if you're on mute, I can read it out on your behalf. Okay, so Mike Norman writes, I'm a survivor of Sheffield in 1982, First Lieutenant. Is the museum planning anything special for the 40th anniversary next year?
It really all depends on the building and what we do here in the museum. Obviously, there's loads going on next year. There's a whole committee that have been set up to come up with all sorts of ideas. One of our members of staff is on that committee. But the museum itself, like I said, it really depends on this building. Our aim is to open it on the 40th anniversary. And if we can't do that, then we will be holding a special exhibition here at the Historic Dockyard Museum.
Thank you. And,
Thank you. Can you hear me? Sorry, it's Mike here. Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you now, Mike.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry
Yeah,
about
no
that.
worries. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Andrew, for that answer. I hope you get your money in line so that we can look at something special. And can I just say hello to Kit Lehman? Can you hear me?
I can. Hello.
who I used to work for when you were in charge down there. Anyway, nice to see you. You're looking very well.
In charge.
Say again?
I'm second in charge here.
Well, yes, okay. I understand that too. Thank you very much. Very, very nice presentation.
Fantastic, thank you. We've also had, we've got some friends on the webinar tonight from the Shackleton Museum in Ireland, so welcome to them. I do just want to go over to, I think, Donald Lamont, you've got your hand up. Do you want to, over to you.
Well done.
Right, I think that's unmuted. Well, there's much that I could say all positive about the museum. I had the pleasure of being for a while the first chairman of the Friends of Museum. We had an excellent relationship, and we're happy to be able to give a slug of funding towards the new gallery. But I take the floor to respond to Mike Norman's question. This is not, A, it's not public, and B, it may not happen, but I now chair an entity called the Falklands Maritime Heritage Trust, and we launched a website relatively recently. We have it in mind to make a film about 1982, which would combine two things. One, because we're a maritime heritage trust, the Royal Navy's role, and the Merchant Navy, Royal and the Merchant Navy, and the Islander view of how things kind of happen. So it'd be a bit different from previous kind of movies. And the guy who is in a way our kind of media mastermind has put together the idea that a number of people have got in touch with us through our website, including Mike Norman. And when you look at that list of specific people, they have a fantastic range of insights and contributions to make about what happened in 1982. So I can't guarantee it will happen. We've got a conversation tomorrow with the National Museum of the Royal Navy, who are also asking questions about whether we think the Royal Navy itself might be interested. So that ball is gently rolling. You know, if we can sort out funding for it, but I'm not making an appeal on that, but we would need to sort out funding. But that would be something we intend would be, a, if you like, a product ready to be shown at the museum to people in the Falkland Islands and to people elsewhere to appreciate and learn more about what happened in 82. Sorry, I went on longer than I should have.
No,
that's what governors do.
Thank you. No, thank you, Donald. Andrea, I don't know if you want to come back on that or anything you want to add.
Yeah, it was nice to see you, Donald. Yeah, of course, I've heard about this project, and I said to Phil Rendell, anything that we can do to help, you know, whether it be it contacting people for the film, or just to have the team sort of make their base here, you know, anything that we can do to help, you know that we're here.
Okay, thank you. We're going to come to Jim in a second, but I just wanted to, I neglected to mention that our friends in the Shackleton Museum, Andrea, they just wanted to mention as well that next year's anniversary of Sir Ernest Shackleton's death, they would be interested in doing something to commemorate that with yourselves. So if you want to pass me contact details, Jim, you know, I can, if Andrew's happy to, I can link you both. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That's okay, yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
No, I was going to say we've already got a bit of a link going, you know, through Joe who was down here last year. So yeah, absolutely.
Great, thanks. Jim, over to you. Jim McAdam.
Thank you very much, Philip and Andrea. That was brilliant. Thank you. That's a terrific overview of the museum. Because I'm editor of the Falklands Journal, which I've done that for about the last 25 years. The journal's been going for over 50 years, 52 or 53. But over the last few years, we have now sort of linked ourselves formally with the museum. I mean, our role in the journal has been to document the history of the Falklands through people's contribution in articles, and the museum obviously is presenting the role of the heritage and history of the Falklands. So it's really just natural that we should link, and we are now, if you like, almost a formal publication of the museum and archives, so the museum has a lot of people do research through the museum. A lot of people use the facilities in the museum for really detailed, really important in-depth research on the history of the Falklands, and the journal is there for publishing that and for presenting that, and we're just delighted that we have a formal link, and that will continue into the future to promote the presentation of the whole history of the Falkland Islands. Thank you very much, Andrea. Terrific presentation.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
It's Geraldine. Oh, hi, Geraldine. Nice to see you. Lovely to see you. And yeah, of course, you know that we're happy, more than happy to carry on helping with the journal as well. But it just reminded me when you said about researchers and how they use the museum. Obviously, we've got a lot more staff than I think we ever anticipated that we would need here at the Historic Dockyard Museum. We're a lot busier than we ever anticipated. And one of the things that we have lost here is the research area. You know, the reading room, we've had to make that into offices. And that's something else that the new building will give us. It'll give us back our research area. It was just something I just thought of while you were talking, Jim. But thank you.
So we've got time for maybe one or two more questions. Martino comments, Andrea. Hello to all. I'm from Italy. Greetings from Modana's Law University. I would like to ask, what about the visitors of the museum? From which countries do they come from most?
Gosh, I think the majority come from the USA, I would say. And then maybe followed by the UK. And then we get a lot of people from Germany and France and Australia as well. I think they're probably at the top.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. It's good to hear that there's a global attraction to visiting the Falklands. Okay, so I don't see any other hands up, but I will ask if anyone wants to, the floor is open for a few minutes. Is anyone want to pose a question or make a brief comment? We've got 5 minutes. The Coles have got their hand up, I think. Yeah, go ahead. You're muted at the moment.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
We were in the Falkland Islands in the early 2000s. I was director of education there, and I spoke at length to the late Jane Cameron, who had lots of information, archive information on hold in various areas of the Falklands. I think a container was mentioned as one of the places. Could you tell me whether those archives are being accessed and how they're being used?
Well, we've actually, separate to us, there's a Jane Cameron National Archives. And we don't have anything to do with the archives. That is comes under the Falklands government, and there's a lady called Tansy Bishop that looks after the archives, and she looks after them very well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we can take one more question.
Well,
hello, Roderick.
Hello. I am chair of the British Antarctic Monument Trust, and was delighted to see that part of the film ended on a shot of the base, the plinth of the monument. The question I have for Andrea is this: we replaced it because of corrosion problems, and was the film of the old one or the new one?
It was of the old one.
Well, it looked pretty good to me.
It didn't look bad, did it? No, it's off the old one. It's not the new one, because I made that a couple of months ago, and I think it was only replaced about a month ago.
Yeah, December.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it lasts in its salty heaven there.
Yeah, no, I hope it does. And like, you know, I did say we were more than happy to clean it once a month, and yeah, that's and
Yes,
take
but
over sort of
the trust is looking to actually wind itself up, and there are some funds which we will agree about in contribution to your huge efforts. I just think, having visited the museum in 2015 with a gang of other British Antarctic Survey Club members, just to say what a brilliant museum I think it is. Thank you.
It is, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will take one more question because he's got his hand up. Pablo, good evening.
Good afternoon from Bloomington, Indiana in the United States. And many of you may have noticed that my name is not along the lines of everybody else's. It's a very Hispanic name. And that's the reason for that is that I am from Argentina. And I just wanted to take a couple of minutes or just 1 minute to state that not every Argentinian is against the Falklands. I am a member of the Falkland Islands Association. I am a very proud member and a defendant of the right of self-determination. And I may not be the only one. I find that often the perception is that all Argentinians think the same, and all Argentinians fall prey to political propaganda in our country. And I just wanted to take the floor to greet all of you. Thank you, Andrea, for the presentation. I've lived in the Falklands when the airport was being built, the old airport with Johnson Construction. And a lot of my friends at the time are gone. But I feel very, very deeply for the Falklands and its people. And I just wanted to greet you and thank you for the presentation. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Pablo. That means a lot. And, you know, you're absolutely right. Obviously, you know, we get a lot of Argentine visitors in the museum, and they've always been lovely. They really have, you know, and no, not, you know, yeah. Well, what can I say? And I've also been contacted by many Argentines via Twitter, for example. And yeah, absolutely lovely.
Thank you for your very well, your fantastic contribution there, Pablo, and obviously please keep in touch with Foxbot as well. And yeah, I'm sure, you know, really appreciate your making comments. Okay, I did say that was the last question, but I feel bad, and as long as it's a brief question, Leo, do you want to, or a statement? Over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, listen, I feel I'm like Pablo's twin. Pablo, I can speak to you in Spanish if you wish. And I've spent a fair amount of time traveling to and from the Argentine. Like Pablo, I've been a member of the FIA for 25 years or more. And a highlight of my life was coming to Stanley and the museum in 2019. It was simply wonderful. I really had a quick question for Andrea. Andrea, I was surprised by the sheer vitality of Stanley. It's not a small town, not in its heart and its outlook. And I would like to ask you, you know, I went around the museum and there were a number of surprises. What's the most surprising revelation from the visitors to the museum discover, perhaps from the interactive display? That's my question in a Scottish accent.
It's a lovely accent. I think, oh gosh, now you're asking. I think the one thing that our visitors are most surprised by is that there's a lot more to Falklands history than just 82. And they come in here and they're like, oh my gosh, you know, the maritime history, our social history, it's huge, it's massive. You know, but one of the things that they enjoy the most is the video through children's eyes, which I'm sure you would have watched if you came into the museum. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's one of the things that they enjoy the most.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've slightly overrun, but you know, I didn't want anyone to be left out. I do hope that's, well, so, you know, I think it's fair to say that's been really interesting, and hopefully your nerves will recover now, Andrea, because we're finished or finishing, should I say. Absolutely fantastic event, and you've launched us into what I believe will be a very exciting year. And yes, just a personal appeal from myself. You've probably seen, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat, the link to the Just Giving page. I am actually pleased to announce that we've already raised £2,000. Our target is to raise £5,000 in total, which I know in the grand scheme of things is a small drop in the ocean, but you know, as I say, every pound does count, and it will be worth it if we, in a very small way, Andrea, if we can help to make the Sea Harrier a reality, because you know that's, you know, something very close to so many people's hearts. And obviously I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say please join FOTBOT. We are obviously a UK officially registered charity. Everything that's donated does go to good causes such as this, and we, in normal times, we do a variety of face-to-face events, but we're doing obviously a webinar schedule these days. So on that note, I just want to hand over to Lucia.
Thanks, Philip, and thank you, Andrea. It's been a fantastic evening with you. Just as an update, everyone, for upcoming events for you to keep an eye out for, we've got our annual general meeting coming up in early March, if any of you would like to attend. We've also got an event with RSPB at the end of March, looking at their work on the Tristan da Cunha Marine Protection Zone. So that should be a really interesting thing, as that was in the news just late last year. We're also looking at a webinar on Akrotiri and Dikelia in April. And I'm currently planning a webinar with the Bicentenary St. Helena Trust to commemorate the bicentenary of Napoleon's death in early May. So do keep an eye out for those events, and we'd love for all of you to attend if you're able to.
Thank you, Lucia. And Gus, I think you just want to say a few words about what you do.
Yes, so just to remind everyone about the FOTBOT shop. We sell various merchandise on there, includes books, DVDs, posters. You can even get a Falkland Island badge if you want. I'll put the link just in the chat in a sec as a reminder, but do have a look, and if there's anything you want, we will post it out to you.
Thank you. Okay, so Andrea, again, thank you so much. Do you, last word really to you, Andrea, is there anything you wish to conclude on?
Just a massive thank you. Thank you to you guys for fundraising for us. Thank you to everybody that has donated. It really means a lot. I'm a little bit overwhelmed. My nerves were shot before tonight because I've never done anything like this before. So thank you for going easy on me. And yeah, just thank you.
Well,
keep in touch.
It's been absolutely, you know, say, you know, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to have favourite events, but this is definitely one of my favourite events. You know, if not, well, definitely my favourite event of the year so far. So, you know, I'll
take it.
You know, you always think, you know, when you know, there's always something new to learn. So I just really want to thank again everyone who's posted a question or made a comment, because I've learned a lot tonight, which I didn't know, you know, and I'm sure that's the case for many people. So on that note, I will now officially conclude. Please do, as I say, get involved with FOTBOT. Just go to fotbot.org and keep in touch. You know, and please do make a donation if you feel able. You've heard from Andrea tonight. You know where the donation will be going. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, and keep well, keep safe, and hope to see you all again in the near future. Good evening.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Andrea. Bye.
Bye, Andrea.
Bye.
Bye, Andrea.